Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. I'm starting a new series. You've been hearing me talk about Advent. You've been hearing it from various folk all morning. And we're one of those churches that we step into the liturgical seasons of the year. Not every church does that, and there's no shade on those that don't, but we're one of those churches that we step into those seasons. And so for the next 4 Sundays, I want to preach some messages on Advent, the coming of Christ. I want to call this series Timeless Gifts. And I want to run the risk of boring you greatly as we look at Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. Leandra, thanks again for being with us and your wonderful gift. Shout out to our band and to our musical department for backing her up. I appreciate y'all so much. Lucinda, thank you for your faithfulness as a member who's always supporting and encouraging your church, and I'm grateful for that. The pericope of this says the genealogy of Jesus. Most of you get here and then skip all the way down. And since you did that, I'm going to make you listen to it. Matthew chapter 1, verse 1 from the New King James Version, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Aminadab, Aminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David the king. David the king begot Solomon by her who had been the wife of Uriah. Solomon begot Rehoboam. Rehoboam begot Abijah, and Abijah begot Asa, and Asa begot Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begot Joram, and Joram begot Uzziah. Uzziah begot Jotham. Jotham begot Ahaz. Ahaz begot Hezekiah. Hezekiah begot Manasseh. Manasseh begot Ammon. Ammon begot Josiah. Josiah begot Jeconiah. And then his brothers, about that time, they were carried away to Babylon. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Shealtiel, and Shealtiel begot Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel begot Abiud, and Abiud begot Eliakim. Eliakim begot Azor, and Azor begot Zadok, and Zadok begot Achim, and Achim begot Eluid. Eluid begot Eleazar. Eleazar begot Mathan. Mathan begot Jacob. Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. You can have your seats in the presence of the Lord. I look at your neighbor and tell him, neighbor, the Lord is still making miracles. I want to set up this series and preach from the subject, the making of a miracle. As you have been hearing us reference, today is the first Sunday and actually the first day of Advent. The Christian calendar is comprised of what is called liturgical seasons. The word liturgy literally means an arrangement of services. When we talk about liturgical seasons, we are talking about God's movements and how they are observed on the earth. Advent is a season observed as a time of hopeful expectation. It is a time of expectant waiting. I need to pause right there. I didn't say it is a time of waiting. It is a time of expectant waiting. Some of y'all need to know the difference. See, some of us don't know how to wait right. Advent is not just simply a time of waiting, it's a time of expectant waiting. This is not me sitting around twiddling my thumbs as if nothing is going to happen. This is me waiting, knowing that God is at work. This is me waiting, knowing that God is moving behind the seasons. It's where are my people in the room that recognize that I understand that just because it takes time does not mean that God is not in the midst of doing something great that's happening in my life. And since it is a season of hopeful, expectant waiting, it is characterized with celebration. So I don't just wait and get mad that I'm waiting. I wait while clapping my hands. I wait while opening my mouth. I wait while lifting my hand. Where am I believing? I wait because, and this is why I have to make noise while I'm waiting. Because when God shows up, I want him walking into a praise. When God shows up, I want him walking into me already exalting him. I'm not praising you because you may do it, and I'm not praising you because you have done it. I'm praising you because I believe it is on the way in my life. Oh, God. Tell somebody I believe it's on the way. See, this is a season of expectation. This is a season where we get ready. I dare you, elbow your neighbor and tell him, get ready for something great. This is not a season where we have to commercialize or rationalize or analyze what's going on. This is a season where I'm believing God is doing something great, and I've already alluded to it, but I'm going to say it again. I'm not just talking about God doing something great. I'm talking about God doing something great in your household. Do I have 100 people that will lean into that and believe that not only is God going to do something great, he's going to do something great with my address. He's going to do something great in my marriage. He's going to do something great with my daughter. He's going to do something great in my son. Where are my folks? Y'all act like y'all don't believe. Y'all can go. He got to bless somebody. He has to heal somebody. He's got to open up a door for somebody. He's got to deliver somebody. Elbow your neighbor, say, why not us? The problem is, too often times, this is going to be more cranial. This is going to be more academic today. The problem is, we live in a trendy culture. We live in a culture of popularity. We live in a culture, I'm going somewhere, of fads. We live in a culture where things are easily worn out or grown out. You don't believe you can wear out of stuff quick or grow out of stuff quick? Go ahead and dye your hair on Monday. And see what the roots look like come Saturday. Because we live in a culture of the temporary. The culture where, it goes from Facebook to Snapchat to Twitter to X to whatever. Watch how this interferes with our spirituality. And because I've become culturized by that which grows out or wears out, I really don't deep down believe God can do stuff that'll extend my whole life. We don't, and this month, I want to preach about God doing some stuff in you that's not going to wear out. Who receives that? I'm talking about God doing some stuff you're not going to grow out of. You don't grow out of your salvation. You don't grow out of God move. When God moves in your life, you don't act like he didn't move in your life. If he saved you when you were 12 and you're now 42, you're still saved. You're not growing. See, all that, you grow out of clothes. You'll grow out of a haircut. But at the end of the day, I don't grow out of what God has done. That's why in a moment, if you get an opportunity, and when you get an opportunity to receive Christ and get saved, you need to do it, because everything else in your life you might grow out of. Let me set it up. I'm not preaching long this first Sunday. So the Gospel of Matthew now presents Jesus as a king. Everybody say a king. As Matthew writes, he writes predominantly for a Jewish audience. The reason I know he writes for a Jewish audience is because they cared about pedigree. They cared about who your mama and them was. And so he begins laying out in exhaustive detail 42 generations of Jesus. The Jewish people are looking for God to show up and reign on the earth. He wanted somebody to put an end to Gentile dominion. That they wanted somebody to restore the world to what it looked like in Eden. He wanted them, they were looking for somebody that would bless all of mankind. And while they were students of the prophecies, they ignored the spiritual side of what God was doing. In other words, they were so engaged in the promise of the Messiah coming to reign, R-E-I-G-N. They were so enamored of the promise of the Messiah coming to reign that they forgot about the promise of the Messiah coming to redeem. Woo! I might as well park here for a moment. Can I kill one demon real quick? I'm not going to kill a lot this morning because I'm not going to preach that long. But that's why you got to be very careful when we hear language about deliverance churches. Because every time an invitation is extended and someone is redeemed from their sins, at that moment, that is the greatest deliverance any of us will ever experience. What good does it matter if I've been delivered from drugs if I'm going to wind up sober going to hell? Y'all not talking, but that's all right. What difference does it make if I've been delivered from overeating, but I still don't know the Messiah? At the end of the day, the greatest deliverance that's ever going to occur in my life, and I believe God can still heal bodies. He can still make us throw down a cigarette. He can still make us get delivered from whatever ails us. But I got miracles in this room right now. Some of y'all not hearing me. You busy looking for a miracle, and you forgot you are already a miracle. Instead of me asking God to do another miracle, and instead of asking him to help reign in some area of my life, I need to start thanking God for the miracle of my redemption. Do I have anybody in church that is grateful that God has already redeemed me from hell and I'm on my way because I've been blood bought? I'm just trying to get you to see, if you already are saved, you already are a miracle. Which means if he's already done a miracle in your life, I hope y'all get what I'm about to say. The greatest miracle is we not going to hell. Y'all, some of y'all didn't catch the shouting part. I said the greatest, tell your neighbor, the greatest miracle is we saved. Now get this. That means any other miracle I desire is a lesser miracle than the one I've already received. Which means if God has already done the hard work in my life, it's not going to take nothing for him to open a door. It's not going to take nothing for him to give you an opportunity. Tell your neighbor, he's already done the hard work. But we are so busy asking for him to reign that we forget to celebrate we are redeemed. And so as Matthew writes, I'm almost done this first sermon. As Matthew writes, he gives exhaustive detail of the genealogy of Jesus. As he gives this exhaustive detail of the genealogy of Jesus, he does it because he's trying to help people to understand there ain't but two families. One family is talked in great detail about in Genesis 5. But it's a difference. See, in Genesis 5, I have the family of Adam. In Matthew 1, I have the family of the second Adam. But there's a difference. Read it this week at home. Genesis 5 gives names. And then after they give the names, Ray, it says, and he died. Matthew 1, they give names, and then they say, and he begot. If I don't receive Jesus, I'm in a family that all it produces is death. But when I get saved, I'm in a family that begets some things. God, I wish I had a handful of people. See, the problem is we hanging out with too many folk that are producing death. He touched this one and he died. My spirit died. My attitude died. My disposition. But in Matthew chapter 1, I get a family of Jesus that begins life to things. So as he writes Matthew 1, this is very cranial today. We're going to shout next Sunday. I want you to see how God goes about the creation of a miracle. There are three very simple elements to it. Three elements that all of us can experience and appreciate. It's going to be very technical. I don't have no choice. I'm reading 16 verses of begots. So I can't say it fancy because it's 16 verses of begots. But if I understand these 16 verses of begots, everything that comes after it's go. See, the best shout is not emotional, it's intellectual. Now see, that ain't for all y'all. See, emotions come and go, which is why some Sundays you can run and some Sundays all you can do is sit, because it really depends on where your emotions are. But if you raise up an intellectual shout is I'm spending time thinking about the goodness of the Lord. I'm spending time thinking about every way. I dare you, tell your neighbor, use your brain in church. See, when you use your brain in church and you get to thinking about how he brought you through, is there anybody in here other than me that if you just close your eyes and begin thinking about God opening doors, begin thinking about how you were stuck in something and the Lord brought you out of it, you begin thinking about all the ways he's made, you begin thinking, tell your neighbor, thinking it. That's why old preachers will say, when I think of the goodness of the Lord and all that he's done for me, my soul cries out, hallelujah. So he gives us in these begots an intellectual thinking man, women's version of miracle making. So here they are very quickly. Here, nothing fancy about this, Lenny. Number one, he says, you and I all need to understand our own historical account. I'm about to kill a demon. I said I wasn't going to kill this one, but I'm killing it. It's worthy of death. Tell your neighbor, your history matters. It's beyond my understanding why evangelical Christians who claim the Bible, who read about the history of Jesus, would then want to change the history of the people Jesus died for. I'm glad that there was no banning of books. That the very people who say ban books want to use these 66 books to authenticate the banning of books. Uh-oh, my mic must have went off. It's the same people that want to redefine terms. That black folk weren't brought here as slaves. They came here as voluntary relocation. The same people that romanticize the Civil War and want to make people think it was about something other than race and slavery. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that your history matters. If it matters for Jesus, it ought matter for us as believers. We ought know where we came from. We ought know what the struggles of our parents and foreparents were. We ought know. People act different when they know who they came from. I wish I had a handful of people that grew up old school like I did. Because when you grew up old school, your parents will remind you of whose child you were. They will remind you of the struggle of those that went before you. They will remind you of what other people went through so you could get what you got. And the thing about it is everybody on the list does not necessarily have to have a glowing resume. Some were poets. You look at the history of Jesus. Look at his historical account. Some were kings, some were servants, some were slaves, some were pagans, some were Jews. I might as well go here. But all of them were sinners. See, what I want us to get, y'all, is that I want you to receive this. We are all the sum total of everything in our past. Some of y'all didn't catch that. See, what I'm saying to you is that I'm not just the sum total of the things that went right in my past. I am also the sum total of the things that went wrong in my past. Could I go ahead and make somebody live real quick? This is going to give somebody life. So I, as a believer, don't ever have to say, I wish thus and such didn't have happened. Because what I'm not going to do is erase my past. If folk erase past, it's only because they want to repeat the past. But when I'm reminded of my past, even the bad stuff that happened, I feel like shouting in this room. Because if you have a molestation in your past, if you have a rape in your past, but you still here worshiping, then what it says is God has given you enough power to have victory over the worst thing that's ever happened in your past. Do I have anybody in church that's been through hell, disappointment, hardship, difficulty, betrayal, abandonment, but tell your neighbor, but I'm still here. And the reason I'm here is because I have victory and power and triumph over what I've been through. I dare you to give somebody a high five, tell them you're greater than it. I don't have to act like it didn't happen. I don't have to act like it didn't feel good. I don't have to act like it didn't hurt. But what I do know is my history tells me I'm greater than it. Oh, God. I hope somebody can get this. I don't need to escape my past. I know how to lean into my past and say it's because of what I've been through that I preach the way I preach, that I sing the way I sing, that I trust the way I trust, that I worship the way I worship. See, some of y'all worship like y'all ain't been through nothing, but there are some of us in the room that's been through a bankruptcy, that's been through a divorce, that's been through a job loss. Where are my people in the room? That I've had some tough days in my life, but when I look back, it has made me who I am. Woo, God. Tell your neighbor, know your history. Oh, God. See, but when I think about my grandmother, If she could do what she did with a 4th grade education, surely I can make it. Where are my people in the room that need to recognize where you have come from? We're not here because we're so smart, because of our education, because of our degrees. We are here because we stand on the shoulders of some people that knew how to have victory, some people that knew how to overcome, some people that knew how to struggle. Oh, I feel it in my spirit now, because I see the problem. We want a struggleless Jesus, but he's not a struggleless Jesus. He's a Jesus that's going to help me overcome the worst moments of my past. I'm almost done. Listen, when you get a chance to get saved today, don't worry about your past. Don't worry about your mom and daddy and them. But don't worry about what folk gonna say, because they knew your great granddaddy and how no good he was. Don't worry about none of that. Because that same person that's judging you in your genealogy got some demons in their genealogy. And if the Lord can deliver their family, then the Lord can deliver my family. I feel the Holy Ghost. Nudge your neighbor, say, why not your family too? If that family can get victory, why not mine? If that family can get another chance, why not mine? If that family can be an overcomer, why not mine? And so for 42 generations, name upon name upon name, because we need to attach the history of miracle making. The first thing the text teaches us is, let me hurry up, is historical account. 16 verses of begot. Whew, God, I feel like running. My mom and daddy got married when it was illegal for a black person and a white person to marry in this country. They got married in 1960. They could never go south rather of Philadelphia, because every city south of Philly would have arrested them for being married. And then they begot me. Some of y'all didn't catch it. See, and I want y'all, the same is true of your family. That you have family members that struggled to pay bills, family members that couldn't afford an education, family members that didn't always have a good paying job, family members on welfare. Where are my folk in here? Do I have any food stamp folk in the room? Do I have any yellow government cheese folk in the room? And if you look back over your life, all of that background, tell your neighbor, it still begot me. Woo, God. I'm almost done. I gotta hurry up. Everybody say my history, my history. But there's a second thing this text teaches. That not only does it give us a historical account of Jesus' genealogy, but the miracle making of God is not only about history, it is also about human adversity. I don't have time to unpack this, y'all, because I want to get us out of here. But let me just say this. First of all, my name in the genealogy does not validate my actions in the family. I'm not glamorizing the sin. But I also don't get to negate you because of the sin. And so what is interesting is that as you start reading through these names, you start seeing significant Hebrew matriarchs that are not listed. Where's Rebecca? Where's Leah? Where's Sarah? What's interesting is that it's not an outright refusal to name women. Because when I read it, 5 women are named. But what blows my mind is that these were not Hebrew kind of women like Rebecca and Sarah and Leah. They naming Tamar. I don't have help. That's all right. They're naming Rahab. Come on, where are my folk in the room? Ruth. One is so suspect that they don't even call her by name. It does not say Bathsheba. I read it. If y'all read it, it says she who had been the wife of Uriah. Y'all gonna miss y'all place to shout, but I'm gonna give you a chance real quick. Can I tell you what it's teaching us? That regardless of how sinister my past is, there's still a place for me in the book. I wish I had a handful of people that could shout with me. That regardless of what kind of sexual sin, most of them had sexual sin in their life. And for all my believers who act like the worst kind of sins are sins beneath the waist, some of us so busy indicting people of sins beneath the waist that we don't have nothing to say about sins above the shoulders. And I don't know about you, but I'm grateful I serve a God that despite what my sin is and despite what my adversity is, I have a God in my life that will still include me in the genealogy. Tell your neighbor, we're not leaving you out. We're not leaving you out despite what you've done. We're not leaving you out despite who you've done it with. We're not leaving you out despite how long you've been doing it. We're not leaving you out because at the end of the day, God is going to use it to bring. Let me come get y'all. I'm done. But watch this. You won't forget this. You won't forget this. What is, because it's peculiar. No Rebecca, no Leah. It's peculiar. Bathsheba, Rahab. But watch this, it's good for your life and my life. What is peculiar can also be purposeful. Y'all didn't catch it? It's peculiar to watch folks singing knowing their background. It's peculiar watching me preach knowing the mistakes I've made in my life. But just because you have something peculiar in your life does not mean that there's not a purpose to what God is doing. I'm done. Because the historical account of Jesus that is included with the human adversity of his background, get the math. Historical account plus human adversity equals heavenly agendas. Oh my God. I'm done. Let me show you the heavenly agenda in verse 16. And Jacob begot Joseph. Are y'all reading the same Bible? The husband of Mary, watch this, of whom was born. Wait a minute. The begots ran out. Y'all miss y'all place to shout. Everything in the past has run out. What used to identify what my family is running out. Who am I preaching to today? That it's time. Tell your neighbor the begots are going to run out. Come on, it's not going to be. I'm going to be the first generation with a degree. The begot ran out. I'm going to be the first generation with my own business. The begot ran out. I'm going to be the first generation not being divorced. The begot ran out. I'm going to be the first generation of a house owner. Of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Then he qualifies, I'm done. Watch how heaven works. I can't let Jesus be a begot. Because if he's a begot, then that means he has an earthly father. But I also need to make sure he's born. Because I can't have him save a humanity he can't identify with. So I have a conundrum. The conundrum is I still have one more person to bring forth, but I can't use a begot. So verse 18 says, now the birth of Jesus went like this. Mary, I'm going to preach this next week, betrothed to Joseph before they came together. So he's not a begot. He's born. But he's not born of an earthly father. But he is born of a virgin. So that makes him 100% God and 100% man. Are y'all ready for it? He who never began to be, but eternally existed, began to be what he eternally was not, and continued to be what he eternally was. Some of y'all. Okay, y'all need it one more time for the people in the back. He who never began to be. He never began to be because he always was. He who never began to be but eternally existed, began to be what he eternally was not, and continued to be what he eternally was. He was so much God as if he was not a man, and he was so much man as if he was not a God. All I'm trying to get you to see is that God is at work, and that God is still performing miracles. Tell two people he's still performing miracles. God can do the supernatural in your life. Put your hands on yourself. Say, God can do the supernatural in my life. Tell your neighbor, that's what Christmas is about. If he can step behind the curtain of nowhere onto the platform of nothingness and speak everything into existence, then he can perform the supernatural in my life. If he can part the waters of the Red Sea, give somebody a high five. Tell them he can perform the supernatural in your life. If he can sustain his servants by a brook with some ravens, that he can perform the supernatural. If he can deliver 3 Hebrew boys from a fiery furnace, then eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. Is there anybody in church that believes God can do all things? Tell somebody, with him nothing is impossible. He is still making miracles. Tell somebody he's still making miracles. I'm done, y'all. I'm done. God, I sense it in my spirit. God has a heavenly agenda for you. Come on, help me preach, y'all. Tell somebody around you, God has a heavenly agenda for you. Oh, God, I feel this thing. So sometimes when people betray you, it's because there was a heavenly agenda. Sometimes when people disappoint you, it's because there was a heavenly agenda. Sometimes when you had a temporary slowdown, it's because there was a heavenly agenda. Is there anybody in church that could look back over your own life and say, wow, I was going through it. It didn't make any sense to me at all. But now I understand that God had a heavenly agenda. And the heavenly agenda, Corey, was that he wasn't going to do it for you the way he did it for everybody else. I don't know who needs to receive this. It's no more begots. You can start fresh today. Family, history, background, mistakes. None of that is important to God. He said, I'll take you just like you are.